Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special here. Pig Coaching Neuro. It's been maybe 3 years since we've done any coaching together, but I remember you helped me back in HOTS. After I hit GM the first time with Roach Hydra, you taught me how to play Ling Bane Muta kind of base styles, which involve multiple control groups and stuff. Today I do have a couple ZvT macro games for you, and then a couple all-ins that I feel like I could do better at being able to suss it out. Which would you prefer to start with, macro games or all-ins?
Yeah, let's show us the macro game first, actually. Let's do it that way.
Okay, so this one was against someone who goes for really heavy 2-base committed pressure for a long time, and then eventually goes into macro, and I feel like I don't really know how to identify that or punish it.
Cool. Yeah, I had a hectic game versus him yesterday. I was on the back foot the whole friggin' time. I think this was the game on Golden Aura, if anyone in my chat remembers, where he got in there with a big Hellbat Marine attack, and I was being very greedy and didn't even realize what was happening, and whew, that turned into a hot mess. But then he turtled up really hard later on, and I slowly ground him down, but he had some of the most methodical late game setups. Terran's normally F2 a bit. He was like, no, every unit is pre-split. There is like just an endless layers of tanks, libs, turrets, mines, Hellbats, Marines, Marauders. Banelings will never hit more than one unit at a time. I'm like, oh my lord, this is frustrating to play against.
Yep.
He's a pretty good player. He's really good. I can tell he's not like crazy fast, but he's got a brain on his head, on his shoulders. So there's, you'd think a Terran that's not really fast is like easier to beat because they're such a micro race, but most Terrans just don't use their head at all. They just try to win with their hands. So then when one thinks a bit, you're like, oh god, you're not just doing what every other Terran does. This sucks.
Yep.
Anyways, sorry, what were you gonna say?
For a lot of my ZVTs, I feel like I have the freedom to drone a lot, and I've been able to beat most Terrans at this bracket fairly handily just by droning up to 90 and then being able to consistently remax. But this particular style that Cacti does means that you need to stop droning earlier than that, otherwise you just die. Because I think the third base goes down at about 10 minutes or so, which makes it really spooky to get information and also to know where to harass. Because I really like doing big Ling run by at the natural, but if someone's on 2 base for a long time, there's no wall that's open because they only have that one spot.
We might need to escalate with Banelings, right? Do like the giant committed counterattacks, depending on how hard he's pushing in, of course. You can't commit too much to that. Might just be a factor of just kind of surround each engagement, right? Like usually, it kind of depends on what we're looking at. So anyways, you're doing the old clash opening by the looks of it. You did go third base into Ling speed. We are a little low on drones right now, I feel. We're only on 26 supply. Interesting. We did lose a drone. Let's just check just this little part of the opening and see. Have you been playing against a lot of Reaper stuff? Are you like kind of going Ling speed a bit earlier because you're worried about that at all? Or are you just kind of, this is what you do every game? It's pretty chill.
This is kind of what I do every game. I get the third, I get Ling speed, then I get an Overlord. It's kind of the order. I don't know if that's optimal or if I should delay it a little bit if I don't see the barracks in the wall.
I think we should just delay the Ling speed a little bit longer to squeeze out the I think the Overlord and the drone, at least like two drones and an Overlord, because then it's like, okay, cool, we're on 28 supply, let's start Ling speed now. But I also like to like just get those drones out and the Overlord even before starting the third hatch personally, but I think you just want to get it down before it can be blocked, right, to make sure there's no disruption. Yeah, which is fine. I think that's like a good way to simplify that part of the build. We just need to like be a little extra focused on getting those next few drones out after. So do we have a document or anything? I'll just write in Discord if that's okay.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so 2 drones plus Overlord right after hatchery starts. And that's a kind of tense moment, right?
Yeah.
But that's basically delay Ling speed till 28 plus supply. Could even be to 33 if we generally don't need it, that early. If people aren't diving Hellions a lot, that sort of stuff, it is a nice way we can just push our early game a little bit and adjust to the meta. I know sometimes we resist meta things because we're like, oh, I want to do something that I can do for the next year no matter what. But I think a little shift like that can also be good practice for your mental flexibility, right? Because then you're like, oh, you know what? People are going 2x Reaper, 3x Reaper, there's fast Hellion dives. I'm going to go back to starting Ling speed right on 28. And then there's other times where everyone's being kind of defensive as the Terran, and you're like, you know what? Let's go to 33, 34 supply, 36 maybe even before I start Ling speed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't use it offensively.
Yeah. Unless you rush it really fast and then you do the like 2 Hellions, get halfway across the map and then your 8 Lings run in or whatever. Or actually versus 3 CC, sometimes people do it really well. Oh, that's a 6 scout. So you see 2 barracks and starport. So that's fantastic. Normally, I would say running Lings in at that time, not a great idea. Just poke a single Zergling because their Hellions will be out. But you did get a scout off, so it's kind of worth it in that scenario. So you know already there's going to be a bit more of a 2-base centric build order. But you also know it's like a weird one because the factory's on the reactor, right? So it's not the very quick 5-minute 20-2-1-1, but it could still be some slightly later timing with like Hellbat Marine or something like that.
My initial thought was that I can probably drone to maybe 60-ish after I have my safety links. Maybe a bit further than that.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah. So verse, 2-base, extra racks builds, 60 drones. What do you reckon? 4 gases?
Yeah.
60 drone, 4 gas. You still want to take a 4th base, right? And maybe a macro hatch or a 4th and a 5th base. 4th base, macro hatch, etc. still. But Massling, Bane, and double upgrades. So double upgrades, Bane speed, all that good stuff. I think that's a good way to focus on it. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. My stream can see what's going on, right? Yes, they can. Good. Okay. So our droning has been quite delayed here. I think we want to take a little look here. Let's go back to when those Hellions come in. Details really matter. Let's also shut that music down. That's too epic. We're in coaching mode. Keep it quiet, music. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, all right, guys, no. We just need to focus on the basics. Where are our overlords is my question. Okay. So I feel like for me, with this 3rd base, I like this overlord. You can see where I'm signaling?
Yeah.
I'd push it forward a little bit by this point, though, right? Because it's like Hellion stage. We want earlier warning, right? Whereas before, you're just kind of watching where the Reaper rotates. The other overlord, I would have had over here, right over the 3rd hatchery, but then I would have pushed it forward to out here by now as the priority, right? And I think you've kind of gone to the north earlier than I would bother, because that's kind of like more of like a side detour they have to go to. So I would say out front, then up north, and then as this overlord down the bottom pushes forward, we'd obviously fill in that bottom gap as well at some point, right? But that's kind of the least worried about angle, them sneaking around there. So if we had that vision, we could have ran these drones away or quickly done extract a spore crawler, something like that to save those 2 drones would have been really good. Is our queen count a little delayed this game? Let's take a little look. I think we're okay on queens. I think like at this point, you're like, okay, 2 bases. There's an argument here that so this is actually a decision point in your build that you want to make every game. So this is something you might not be consciously thinking about. Basically about 3:30, you have the money for either 3 queens. And this is like another way of thinking that 3:30 is like 2-base saturation, right?
Yeah, 2-base mineral.
So you have money for either 3 queens or to drone your 3rd and delay the queens slightly. I think if Hellions are on the map, you usually want to go queens first. Or at least get your queens forward out front and that sort of stuff a little bit faster. This is compounded because we're lacking overlord vision and our creep is late this game. That's what's compounding it as well. But that's a small thing we could have shifted here. Even if we built the drones and then the queens, I don't think it matters too much because we can start those queens in the next few seconds. They'll start 15 to 20 seconds later. Not a big deal, right? But we need to rally the drones to the natural for now until we get a bit more creep out there. I need to go back and look for your creep. We didn't put a tumor down immediately on the natural.
I inject both. Is that bad?
I don't think you can use all that lava. So I think if you do a creep tumor first on the natural, it'll just give you a bit of a boost on the creep spread, and the second inject will come in time that you should still be okay. So I think that'll just optimize your creep spread a little bit. It'll allow you to defend your bases with your queens from those early Hellions easier.
Ooh.
So correction.
And the just help defend that perfectly.
Yeah. First inject on natural should be creep tumor. I used to do this all the time, and I'll still do what you're doing here if I'm like doing a bit of a Ling flood, playing a bit more of like I'm gonna do more like Ling backstabs. I'm not really gonna have a proper queen count. I'm kind of just having like 1 or 2 tumors connecting the bases. I'm going to play like 4 queens, and I'm going to do like Ling backstabs, and I'm going to try to like tech fast to muters or do some weird roach Ling aggression. Sometimes I play one of those like old school barebone styles, and I'll double inject straight away. But if you're doing the queen focus standard build, I think that early creep tumor is so important.
Yeah, I'll be able to defend the third with queens here. There's creep there.
Yeah, because we'd have creep out to the overlord and 1 connecting the base. Yeah, and then your queens could just be in the middle. And then once your extra queens come out, you can split them to both sides. Have you got used to that at all? Queen splitting?
As in different control groups and stuff in different places?
Yeah.
Not too much. I used to do that back in the Void Ray meta against Protoss.
What about those battle cruisers? Did you ever get used to it there, or you just send all your queens after it?
Just triple spore the main and send all the queens after it usually.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so that is a useful skill. I feel like it's the battle cruisers that forced me to get used to it. And then I was like, I'm like, this is annoying, an extra control group to handle. But it does, especially when they're more of a poking and prodding player rather than a diving player, it makes it much more relaxing because you're just kind of like, I've got 1 squad that's always out front the natural, 1 squad that's always out front the third, and you keep those control groups consistent. And it's just really nice because especially if you're going 8-9 queens every game, it's like, okay, I've got my 3 injecting queens and then 3 queens on the out front natural, 3 queens out front the third. Makes it much easier to spread creep. It makes it feel like your creep spreads earlier. They're not able to contain you. It gives you a bit more vision. And it also means if a Banshee flies in the main or a battle cruiser or anything, you just send 1 queen key to deal with it. And it's like, you don't have to like recontrol group and split units up and all that sort of stuff. So it's a nice skill to build, but it is an investment. So we'll kind of leave that as like a note.
You do this in all ZvTs or just against air specifically?
I do it every time if they've got a Hellion opening. If they don't do a Hellion opening, I don't bother because they don't have much mobility. Okay. But it's when the Hellions are able to like dart around between, picking off the tumors that, yeah, it's big. Learn to just split queens by default versus any Hellion opening. Consistent. And I just use my second army key for the second group. Like, so my normal queen group is out front my third, which is normally where I'd prioritize like what you're doing with your queens, right? And then the second one is like the anti-escort. That's like what would be my mutalist key or something later in the game, depending on what units I'm playing. So it's a key I'm used to using, and it's only for this like little 4-minute to 6-minute window. Usually after that point, the Hellion stage is kind of over. It's Marines, medevacs. Oh, okay, all the queens just go in 1 control group again. So it's kind of like a temporary 4 to 6 minute thing.
Yeah, basically just to deflect their early mid harass, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's like a very cool thing that can help. Anyways, you defended okay. You've got a quick Bane speed. Your upgrades aren't very fast. You're only going single evo, so you're playing super safe. Only thing I'd criticize here is if we could squeeze a 4th base in, so we could, macro hatch and a 4th base, but we just don't have the money for it. So obviously that's fine for now. I would like to see a little bit more spotting. So against this, sending Zerglings behind. Also, I think even if you're not planning to do it, if you grab all your Zerglings here, because he's sieged so far back, you can kind of tell he's not going to shove right in. If you could set up your flank, maybe up here. Because we feel like he's going to push towards the third rather than the natural. Up there is good. And if he goes deeper on the natural, you can always come down from this. It's just nice to already have all your Lings over there on a different control group, second army group. And then you're kind of like, okay, we can morph some Banes there, or we can flank in if there's the opportunity. And we've got the morphing Banes plus any new Zergling eggs we're building. That'll be the frontal army. So I think doing that by default is massive. And I think last year, we're in 2024. 2022, end of 2022 was when Bunny was killing everyone with the 2-base Terran pushes. There wasn't a lot of good surrounds. And that's why Cyril and Raynor and everyone kept dying to it. They just weren't getting the full surround of the army. So the Marines were like stutter stepping away. The tanks were focusing down the Banelings. And then all the Marines would just pick up and leave. And they'd come back with the next wave. Whereas if you fully surround, the Marines have to pick up much faster. And it's like, yeah, they can save the Marines, but they're not killing much of your stuff. And you kill the tanks and it's really good for you. So verse 2-base push, immediately split a large chunk of army to cut off the reinforce. I think that's another good way of thinking of it, because then it's a dual purpose. If you sent those around the top, if he's rallying, you get some free unit kills and you chase him back to his base a little bit, and then you go back and turn it into a flanking army. So it's kind of like it's a flanking, but also a cutting off reinforcement. It serves two functions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for an objective because I've mentally felt stuck whenever they play like this because I am used to 3-base Terran and then I can send my lings into their natural, but the only adjustment here is instead of sending them to my natural, I just send them inside the natural. Like if they were here or here on the map, that's still more useful than... I have a huge army that can't really do too much about this if he's all concentrated.
I think when you lose confidence like that, it's really easy to feel, like you said, stuck is a good word. And I think you want to make your opponent feel like that, right? StarCraft is about making your opponent feel awkward and uncomfortable. And this army moving out right now, if
they would get fucked.
Yeah. And then even if he handles it perfectly, sees it coming or picks up, drops behind the wall, sieges up, stims, doesn't get busted, he's now in that position where he's like, I have an army on the front I want to be pressuring with. I have army at home. I don't know if this Zerg's trying to Bane bust or if he's just going to flank my other army. I really want my armies together, but I don't want to leave my base undefended. I don't want to leave the other army.
Now he's stuck.
He's stuck. And he's going Zerg Zimba. Mobility bullshit. Zergling Baneling.
Yeah. But it is a Terran patch.
It's always nice. This is like my yeah, that's the thing. I should coach myself on this more where I'm like, when I'm feeling just angry or like so helpless in a situation, I'm like, I have to try and imagine what would be the most frustrating and annoying thing for my opponent to deal with and then do that, right? I'm like, you know, this is like a good way to remember it. Like, let's think of it from their side. What do they not want to see? Rather than just, oh my God, what can I even do here? He's so far back. He's really not causing any pressure, but he's building up a bigger and bigger army. So we do need to gather our Banes and sandwich this army from two sides. And it's kind of hard because he's actually positioning awkwardly. Where when they take this long, I really like to set up like a 5-sided surround. You know, where you're just like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. I got units from here, and we're going to F2A move, right? You're doing a pretty good job of coming in from behind, and it should still work, but you don't realize how far back he is. So you're stumbling into him, and that sucks. And now you're going to go, oh shit, we're fighting. I guess we keep fighting. And you can see your units are in 2 columns or 3 or 4 columns, and they're all kind of strung out behind each other. Whereas if you were just a little bit more balled up in those armies before you went in, like, you actually could have crushed that a little bit harder. And you still crushed it. That was still a great fight. But it could have been even more decisive. So I just want you to look at the positioning of those units. And just remember, in this position, it always feels like, oh God, your heart's racing. He's hitting my hatchery. I gotta go. I gotta go. You don't. You just need to roll this little Ling Bane army up here. And especially if you've got the 2 control group system, which I know you do have, even though you're trying to send some Ling Bane around the north. I think that's still in that army. If you just take number 2, move it forward here, and then just pull it back when he backs off. He's not Clem. He's not going to be able to keep stutter stepping in and out unless he completely screws up his macro and doesn't bring new armies across. So we're happy to, as long as we can squeeze in the occasional inject or Zergling production in between doing that dance with him and just get him away from the mineral line, and then you're fine. So you go forward and now just pull back. Just don't chase, just pull back. But the problem is you F2 pulled onto those Marines, right? He baited you into F2ing. Works out okay, but this could have gone really bad. So organizationally, try to just, I think if we stick to 2 armies from 2 sides, usually that's going to work, even though on this map it's kind of rough with where he positioned. I think still if you just do half from there, your A move, it's still going to be a good enough sandwich, right? Cool. So make sure we set up and are all clumped, Banes morphed, and upgrades finished. Our carapace is like 20 seconds away as well, right? 10 seconds. So it would have been really good to wait for that as well. And upgrades finished before fighting. If Marines run in, remember, as a Terran, they desperately want the Zerg to get baited. If you just run some Ling Bane at them and pull back when they pull back, it's very frustrating for them. So sometimes it feels like you're on a one-sided end of they're just poking and prodding and pissing you off. But by refusing to take the bait, you're making them just as angry. You're making them feel just as powerless because that Terran army is not mobile. They need to bait you into taking that dumb fight. They're waving the red flag in front of you. Your job is to not be the bull.
Even if I really am offended by their presence on the map, on the edge of my creep.
Yeah, because if you save up that bull energy, you act all docile. You're like, moo. And then They let the guard down, and yeah, you know those videos where they just like toss them into the stands, and you're like, oh my god.
And then the doom music kicks in.
Yes. When you see that hoof stamp and that nostril flare, you know that person screwed up. They are way too close to that large animal.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could have taken my 4th base really before that attack hit, which would have meant that this base would have been droned by now. So I think that's the main adjustment isn't really changing your drone count as much. Like, yeah, I could help, but I had the money where I could have still had 70 drones, I think.
Yeah.
If I was a stronger player. And some of that, like you said, could have been fixed from prioritizing drones over ling speed, getting the creep tumor to protect my workers, having the overlords of vision outside my natural short rush lane first, and then my 3rd base short rush lane second. That would mean that all of this I'm just stronger and better prepared for. But I haven't really thought about on each map, if they siege somewhere, where is my secondary army going if I can't counter? But I like the idea of, okay, I have this arm and this arm, and if I A move with that, then they're going to get smashed every time.
Yeah.
Makes
sense. It, man. That system is so freeing, you know, because you're setting it up ahead of time. Trying to set that up when the Marines are already at your base, like hitting your hatchery, and you're having to like engage them with the Lingbane to scare them back and split units off, you just end up fumbling your control groups, and units aren't getting, like eggs aren't getting added to army, and everything starts to fall apart. So you did lose 6 drones here. So rebuilding those 6 drones I'm fine with, but other than that, I wouldn't do any more than that. I'd just be like, inject, keep massing Lingbane, keep upgrading. Because the moment you don't have enough army, they can keep going. So I would say your rule after defending the first push is to really respect the second push. Because remember, it always feels like I shut them down, I got this. Half their army's at home, sometimes more than half. Because they weren't able to rally because you did a proper flanking cutoff of the reinforcements, okay? So that's actually huge. That's so big to remember. Okay, so after holding first push, remember, macro, right? What would we do? Number 1, macro, cycles, right? Number 2, spread creep. Number 3, take extra bases if we've got the money. If we have money, don't drone.
I have money.
So what would be number 4 would be ling spotters. Because we need to see, are they taking a 3rd? Is there a new army coming? Basically get that ring of vision out with the Zerglings a little bit more. Number 5, only start making drones after you see a 3rd CC. And I know it feels bad if that floats out and they land it and it's fully saturated and you're only on 50, 57, 60 drones, somewhere around there, right? But you got 4 bases, or 5 or 6 even. If you are, you know, if you got a bit of extra money, maybe you took a 5th base, so you got a macro hatch as well. The moment you do know what's going on, you can just drone those like crazy. And it feels bad to not have the economy up, for sure. But what is another advantage you get from having that large army?
You can spread smash the 3rd.
Yeah, you could smash their 3rd. If they move out with their army, you can counterattack. You can spread creep like crazy. If they push into you, you know, even if you don't smash the 3rd, just feeling confident by having so much army on the map, you can already have it split, 1 army in the north, 1 army in the south, and your creep just spreads freely. Because they come over with a drop, you just A-move it, and you just keep macroing and spreading creep. You don't even have to, like, respect it. And I think that would make this next step really smooth for you, where it would take it from a good position to a winning position. Yeah. I think that's a really good priority list, because the default is, man, it took me a while to clean that up. This guy's probably on 3 bases. I better drone up and recover. And that can lead us astray a little bit. Did we lose an extractor? No, we were only on 2 gas this whole time. And that was, normally you'd play 4 gas, but I think 2 gas was perfect for this, in this scenario, because you didn't have a super smooth start, right? You lost a few drones to the Hellions and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So 2 gas is actually like better for making comebacks than 4 gas even, right? If you're ever behind, 2 gas Massling Bane is like the comeback style. So
yeah, because you need minerals more than gas to reach your macro convergence point.
Yeah, and it feels like Banelings get stronger the more lings you have as well, right? Because then you're kind of like trapping the Marines a bit more as well. So a few Banelings are so good when you've got Massling with them. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't see this push coming. I think you have enough units to defend it. Even though you've just been very greedy, droning up to 70 workers, I think if we saw this coming, we could have done it. We just didn't set up the vision. So just that one crucial step, and I think it's all because of this drop on the left. Just distracted you, and it kind of interrupted your cycle a few times, so you were kind of just trying to fix your basics there. We can also see you don't need this many drones because you've got a bunch of drones, I think, rallying out to the 3rd and potentially 4th. But your main's also half mined out as well. So that's another thing where taking new hatcheries is an advantage of itself. So even if you're only on 50 or 60 drones, they've just taken a 3rd. Their main's like fully mining out everything, especially the patches they've been muling. Their natural patches are going to start running out much earlier than yours. So remember, even though you think it's a 3-base Terran, it's not really. Their income's actually much lower when they've committed to this sort of aggression and their bases are being taken later. It's why after early aggressive games, taking an early 4th is very important for everyone in Legacy of the Void. But it's easier for us as Zerg, which is why we can make plays after these aggressive starts, even when we feel like our economy is absolute dog crap.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, I just clicked the Terran's mineral patches. One of them just mined out, and then 2 more have less than 100.
Yeah.
So their main base is pretty much out of juice.
Yeah, and on the natural where he's dropping mules, he's actually dropping them on close patches. So his natural's about to mine out at 4 patches as well, because he's been dropping his mules there, and he's been dropping them on the wrong patches. If anyone's friends with Cacti, I think I've seen him in my chat before. Can you guys message him and link him my open cut muling video, coaching for the Terran as well? Because a lot of players, they play in recent years, they don't know about the mineral patches. I really feel bad that people are out there because this is such a bad thing for Terrans. They don't even know how bad it hurts their economy. This guy's been getting really good now. I like seeing the passion. Open cut muling, a new way to build Terran economy. From the race that brought you barbecue drone ribs and freedom circles comes their latest piece of ingenuity, open cut muling. This is a Team Liquid strategy article and a video I did. August 31st, 2016. Link that to you on Discord as well in case you feel like sharing it with your chat. Basically, it was early Legacy and we were figuring out how the new mineral patches work, where half of them have double the minerals to the other half. And Innovation had figured out a way to prolong his 2-base all-ins, where basically what he did... Ooh, nice lucky bailing ambush there. That's good. Is he would only drop the mules on the close patches. And normally we'd say, oh, well, you drop it on the natural rather once you've got it landed, right? And then your 3rd, always drop it on the newer bases because they're newer mineral patches, so they don't mine out as fast. But with a 2-base all-in, he would actually only drop mules on his main base. Because at 8:30 to 9 minutes every game, 4 of your mineral patches will mine out, the 4 far ones that also have less minerals. And the other 4 will still have 50% left. But if you mule them evenly, and you drop 2 mules per mineral patch by that time, they will have mined an extra 450 minerals each. If you can bring that up to 3, it'll be 675 minerals, which is almost the remaining amount on these 4 mineral patches you can see in the main. So that way the main mines out all at the same time, about 9 minutes, and then you just lift the main, land it at your 3rd, and move all the workers there. And if you took a bit of extra gas, so you have a bit of a gas bank to make up for that, you basically continue 2-base all-in, and he could do wave after wave after wave just by moving the base and moving all the workers, and he'd still have a 2-base income that wouldn't really peter out. And he had this specific technique where he would just drop mules on the close mineral patches. Because I was fascinated by how he did this game where he did like 6 layers of 2-base all-in and eventually won this game. And I was like, what the frig? I was like, how does he still got this going? And he had this one technique. And yeah, we basically realized by understanding that, it's like, okay, that's a cool 2-base all-in technique. But once you just understand, you realize you should only be dropping mules on the heavy close patches. Because you drop them on the half patches, they mine out so quick and your SCVs just have nowhere to mine from. You end up with like bases with only 4 mineral patches way earlier than you should. So just in general, just spread them across the heavy close mineral patches and your patches mine out later. Sorry, a bit of coaching for Terran there. Sorry, you're helping your enemies. My bad.
It's okay, because if you get the Terrans to do this 2-base build, then I'll get more deliberate practice. So
hey,
bring it.
That's how it goes, man.
That's the funny thing about this very Terran heavy patch in terms of the ladder player distribution is, as a Zerg, it gives me the world's favorite matchup, so I'm chilling.
It's actually pretty good, yeah. The lots of practice in ZvT really helps, and bloody good for the viewers as well. You know, I go, man, that was the most stressful TVZ of my life. Oh my lord. Chat's like, that was so fun. Do that again. And I'm like, no, I don't want to lose 20 drones to the Hellions and have to fight from behind for half an hour, thanks. Yeah. I'd rather not.
Another thing I'm noticing, just looking at this replay now, is whenever they do a heavy siege push with a bunch of tanks here, I can double expand away from that.
For sure.
Like if I take this base and this base right now, they can't really do anything.
Yeah, we could have done it probably all the way back here, 2.5 minutes earlier, right?
Yeah.
I guess at this point, it's like cancel the top hatchery, take the 2 to the bottom. Because he just canceled your bottom hatchery with that drop, we're struggling right now. Have you got a drop defense hotkey that you're used to using, by the way? Or are you pretty much always just 2 and 4 for your army?
I also have another group on 3 that I use. Normally that's for run by. So I have 2 run by groups. I don't really like mentally have a set drop defense group, but I could.
Yeah, let's start using 3 or 5 or whatever that correlates to for you. You're a core user as well. 3 or 5. Basically, let's start using one of those run by keys always as drop defense. And think of that as the core use, and sometimes you'll use it for a run by. But try to like, just try to prioritize that in your brain so it starts to be... Because in this scenario, that drop, it's like, we just need to have that muscle memory inside of us in a chaotic game like this to just box Alt-3, the Ling Bane, click that squad of 16 Lings and 3 Banes to the natural, and then it's like, just once in a while, we can look at the minimap, see where the medevac is, and just A-move them towards it, right? And that handles it so much easier, whereas this is now getting to that point where you're not going to be able to think. If there's a drop in the back, a push in an unengageable position on the front, or you feel you can't engage it, and he's walled off at home so you can't cause chaos there, you start to run into a wall of like, oh god, I'm getting overwhelmed, but also I don't feel I have any options. And here we pull our whole army to defend, and it works because he's not poking the front right now. But because it's distracting us, we don't have the wherewithal to kind of go take 4th, take 5th on the bottom, mentally prepare to either give this base up or flank those tanks with half my army. So we're trying to set up overly methodical flanks right now. You're trying to like spread your units out there, whereas I'd be much, just the cut off the reinforce, bring it around for the flank. If we just immediately went for that, I think I'd be a bit happier with that move. Because I do think we could have cleared that push by now. We're giving him a little bit too much time, letting him distract us. Now the Liberator's coming as well. Distraction upon distraction. Good on him, man. Really good way to pile on the pressure. Low commitment, massive payoff for him. Really well done. Very well done.
Third base is flying out at a nice crisp time of 10 minutes.
Yeah. He's adding upgrades. A Ghost Academy. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Guys, if you're going Ghosts on 2 base, you're making a big doo-doo. Yeah, he's got a very good position. Oh, so you see, we kind of got baited, right? We didn't choose to engage there. We absolutely ran towards the red flag.
Yeah, we agreed to his terms.
Yeah. You had the numbers. So fighting was the right choice. We just kind of, just that conscious decision. I'm choosing to fight now would have been sick. All right. At this point, he's worn you down, so he's got the advantage. I like the idea of ultras. You know what the real comeback unit is, though? You're up against the wall.
Lurker?
Infester.
Infester.
Ultimate comeback unit, especially with a gas bank like you have here.
How many of them?
Infestors. With or without burrow? Yeah. I would say you don't really have enough map control either way, and obviously just getting link spotters out, clearing these pushes up early is more important. But if I was in this scenario, Infestors would absolutely be my play, because we got the spare gas, and just 1 or 2 good fungals on those Marines is going to ruin his day. Ooh, big Ling run by. Oh, me likey. Oh, but we accidentally ran in the front as well. That's a bummer. Oh, what happened there? What happened with the army on the front? I'm trying to see. What was that? Something weird happened. Did you just F2 and select all your Zerglings? I think you did.
I think I tried to run in the main.
With an F2? Oh, your Baneling. Yeah, it's an F2. Oh, because your Banelings get clicked in there as well. Oh,
they did? Uh-oh.
Yeah, same. So your whole army, Baneling Cocoons, and the Zerglings on the run by key. Oh, wait. Your Zerglings on your second army key are... Oh, interesting.
Just for the group numbers, 2 is normally main army, 3 and 4 are run by, but we're calling 3 drop defense now.
Swarm forces under attack.
So, yeah, that's unfortunate. We sent the main army in as well. So I think it was an F2. I'm not 100% sure. Because the Baneling Cocoons are rallied across. Yeah. I'm not sure what the system is that caused it. We can probably put it down to general scattered mindedness because drop plus libs plus more libs plus, oh god, there's tanks outside my base and there's drops being debags and game is stressful. I always want to look for the system that caused it so we can avoid that system, you know, eradicate it for the future. But in that case, I'm like, I'm really not sure what it would be. So if you figure it out, you can correct it, but hard for us to do after the fact. Cool, great run by, good handling of the drop, but we need to now re-expand to the north, right? We need to like re-expand to the north, move the drones there that are trying to long distance mine, and we need to find a magic engagement. Yeah. A few Ling spotters would be really nice here just to see when he moves up. Ling there, maybe Ling there, Ling over here, that sort of thing. I think that's the main thing that's kind of missing in the this game in general, but the worse it gets, the easier it is to forget. So I really feel, obviously, big weighting, you know this really well, on the early Ling spotter after like holding the first push. That's the most important re-establishment of Ling spotters. Gives you the info of when that next push is coming, allows you to get on top of that before it's siege, preferably. And then that makes the rest of the game just easier, lightens that load. Whereas we're watching you in, it's all the points are kind of clutch, like under pressure things that you have to do that aren't easy. So they're the interesting things to work on. They feel really cool when you pull them off, but in general, the harder things to get better at. All right, let's see you set up this flank. Oh no! Get back here, Billy. Good transfuses. You got a Ling flank on the right. All right, let's go. Ultras up front. Lib going down. Nice, nice, nice. Might have to. Oh, yeah. Lib's taken out. Nice, dude. You were down on army supply quite a bit. Equal upgrades, but yeah, he's marine heavy. That worked real nice. And actually, the low economy ghost is kind of working for him. Have you done ultras against him before as a low economy play?
No. I usually just make ultras as my tier 3.
No worries. Yeah, I think you're pretty screwed from here. It's I don't know if we're gonna get many gains from watching the rest of this replay. Up to you if there's any more questions. We'll kind of 2 times it or 4 times it to see what happens. Yeah,
it's all good.
Fungal actually also pairs with ultras like crazy because ultras are so easy to micro, right? And they're so tanky, like you don't have to spread versus widow mines or anything. Having a few infestors or a single burrowed infestor actually is like crazy value with them as well. I would like to see you split this ultra up north as like a drop defense squad as well. I do like the single ultra drop defense, but I think you got so few units. You're just like on struggle
I just
street.
did, but yes, I have 8 units.
Hey, you put him on 4. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, please drop with me. Please, guys, come say hello. Yeah, and he's actually getting towards not a proper macro game, but there's libs, there's extra command centers, there's +3. He's going to have a third base mining for the first time. Oh, the snipes can be quite painful. Yeah, and you can see how like the way they start balling up a lot and stutter stepping against ultras, how like a flanking infestor or a burrowed infestor can just change the course of the game. So I've made disgusting comebacks with ultra infestor because they just need so many scans and so much care to like move forward and pre-spread and all this sort of stuff. So definitely a cool thing. We're going to see the infestors come out probably a bit too late, but let's see if you work that magic. Oh, Fungal on the ghost. Oh, good EMP. Look at him being a clutch little Terran player. Look at him. Well done. You got to give props there. Most players don't EMP in those scenarios. They panic. Myself included. I don't think you know about the bases. Yeah. This is where, once again, Ling vision. We should have been splitting Lings earlier, right? Just to know about those bases. Because if you did, a few Lings deny the bottom base, a few Lings deny the top base without you even having to commit your army. But
it's one of the nice things about a chaotic game like this is when they're so aggressive, it shows you what parts of your play aren't the most polished. So I do put spotter Lings if it's like a clean game. But this game I was attacked enough that he just kept me from getting that fundamental in. So definitely.
It kind of feels bad as well because like in these action-packed games, I always feel like you're doing it and you're like, I could be injecting and spreading creep better and moving drones around right now because like you're always a bit behind on your tasks, but you kind of just need to prioritize it and just go, yep, that's fine. I'll miss a few seconds of injecting and stuff, spread some Lings. Like you just kind of have to put it a little bit higher in the shopping list, which normally those other things are paramount, but it's like, well, you're always going to be behind on those tasks. You just have to like, yeah, whatever, we got to squeeze this in, which is, I think that's like, that's almost like one of the big StarCraft skills, right? Is like constantly reorganizing your priorities and shuffling that shopping list around. I like the shopping list analogy. I think Day 9 was the one who originally said that, but it really is. You're constantly like, this is the top of the shopping list. 5 seconds later, no, that's on the bottom of the shopping list. It doesn't matter, or remove it completely. No, it's back at the top of the shopping list. You know, things changed. That's the thing where they always say mental flexibility is the big thing you get from StarCraft.
Mm-hmm. Being able to make the most of a bad situation. And if it's scuffed, how do you make it unscuffed?
Finding rhyme and reason within chaos. Yeah. Playing piano while someone stomps on your hands. Oh, good AMP again. Look at this savage, man. So really good. This is where the burrow, obviously having the infestor pop up behind is like god tier and stuff. Also pre-spreading your infestors can be really good. I know that's pretty high level, but I think you have the APM and skill for it, Neuro. You're used to doing it because normally you have a massive army, but you have 9 units right now. So
yeah.
Low economy ultra infestor is the one time we want to spread our infestors so they don't all get hit by EMP. Yeah. Anytime they kind of see you coming like this and they've got time to prepare like he has had, the infestors aren't particularly useful. You can almost just back away with them and be like, we'll be back later. Because they're kind of an ambush unit, right? They want to come from the flank or catch him not realizing that he's stumbling into range of your army.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the second fungal was really good. But yeah, you don't quite have the numbers in those ghosts. 130 damage a snipe. What a close game, though. That was a banger. Really well played, man.
Thank you.
That's a fun game. Were there any more questions about that one? I say as I already leave the replay preemptively. Whoops.
That's okay. We got a lot of fruit from that I didn't expect to get, so appreciate that. I've beaten this all in the past, but this time I got trounced because I had faced many builds that have like a macro 2 Cyclone to kill overlords and stuff, and then they go into a 3rd base. This was just a 2 base all-in, and I felt like I didn't really know how to decipher that. And this map is hard to put overlords on spots because the center watchtower gives them vision to kill anything on this pedestal. And also, I think this one? No, not that one. The closer one. This one.
Ah, okay, yeah. Have you seen Harstem's video, by the way, from today?
No.
So, did you hear the story about the guy who just went from Platinum to GM or Diamond 3 to GM with Mass Cyclone SCV pool every game, 1 base all in?
Whoa. That's
so
cool.
He cast a game of himself running into him on the ladder and losing to him while doing his Cheesiest Man Alive series. And then he watched another replay of the guy play and had him on call for like a little interview while they watched the game. It's just a 1 base, literally doesn't even build a marine, factory, your double gas build, factory, reactor, swaps it over, starts building cyclones, builds a second factory and reactor, swaps it over, has a bunch of cyclones out, pulls the boys, goes. And it's really hard to stop because normally you start a step back from worker pools, but cyclones move and shoot. So they just lock on and they're doing damage the whole time you're running backwards. So you kind of have to just pull all your own workers and stand and fight. And he did this every game and just perfected this build with like 70 APM or something. It's almost 0 interaction, just all in. No one else is really doing it as strong with the SCV pool. And he did it every matchup, no variance, and got to 5-2 on EU.
Wow.
So I'm just preparing you for that because there's going to be a lot of that. People were already asking me about people talking about this guy on Reddit because they'd seen his graph of MMR. And I'd been like, oh, I don't know, this might be faked or something from someone who really hates cyclones, or maybe it's someone who just put in like very little effort before and then it's the first time they've really practiced a build. But at the same time, I was like, it is possible, if you go 4x Marine every game, you can kill people, right? Mm-hmm. If you go, 12 pool into 1 base Ravager follow-up, they always think the 12 pool's over and you're like, no, I'm still on 10 drones. Here's 3 Ravagers and 20 Zerglings. You just win the game. Like, it's Reaper has shown us that so many times. He would kill pro gamers until they realized who he was and how specialized he was in dirty all-ins. Reaper always beat pro gamers game 1 of their series in every weekly cup until every pro gamer that plays the American Weekly knew who he was. And they're like, okay, Zerg have strong all-ins as well. We'll chill next time. But yeah, so this looks like similar, but like a 2 base. So it looks a lot more normal. And then you're just like, oh God. And it's going to have the speed upgrade as well, hey? Cool. You go quick link speed, so you're in a better spot against these builds than some people. Funnily enough, because if they go super heavy Cyclone, you don't have link speed. It's very annoying. You basically need to fight it with like Queen Ravager, because roaches just can't really do anything to them. Preferably Zerglings to surround, but of course Hellions are quite good versus Zerglings. That being said, if you surround, you still kill Hellions, right? And there usually aren't that many. It's almost always mostly Cyclones. So that's what's kind of interesting. But let's actually talk about it, I guess. So your scouting. Wait a second. Why is this depot so late for him? Is it a built-in supply block or is that an accident? Or am I missing a depot? No, there's no depot missing. The depot on the natural started kind of late, right on 4 minutes. I mean, so basically the rule generally is the depot normally starts at about 3:30, right? Or something like that. If they're going 2 command centers, and if it's 3 command centers, it's after 4 minutes, like 4:10 or 4:15 or something, I think. But I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like, how is he only hitting the supply block now? I'm like, okay, I guess, I don't know. He's obviously his economy is his production's about to go crazy. You're going to sacrifice him with the Overlord, see what's going on, in that it's reacted Cyclones. You don't see the rest of it. Oh, that's rough. Now you have spores in each base. What's that about?
430, 1 spore per base.
Okay, I think you started.
I don't know if I made them early.
Oh, you made them crazy early this game, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
You made them at 4 minutes. I generally like to delay these to like 440, 445 because I just almost never run into people getting the fastest possible Banshee. And even then, I sometimes just skip them because I forget them. And it's like, it's a greedy, dumb thing, but it also gets me ahead more often than not. So I would say 445 spores, those 3 spores being down that early really hurts your income. And this is going to make the hold so much harder. Also, notice you're already building them. That means you're not building queens. So you're going to have less queens than normal as well. Less transfuses, less damage to deal with the early Hellion Cyclone. So this is actually going to be really rough. So you kind of just got a bit muddled. I would assume this was played on stream, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure someone said something funny in chat or asked an interesting question. If that you were just a little bit kind of not paying attention to your timer.
I build spores.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, spores, Baneling Nest, Lair. Because you think you're at the next part of the build. You think you have 7 queens right now. And it's kind of like, oh, wait, I have 4 queens? You know? So that's not good. That's not good. I like to scout. Yeah, I guess there is an argument for if you want to scout with the Overlord and sacrifice it, you probably should have it over here. It's just then you don't get to see what's leaving their base. But I think that's worth doing. If you really like the Overlord sacrifice. And if you did that, I think there's a higher chance of you seeing the factories, but you still might not. It's not 100%, just a little thing that you might want to toy with. Oh yeah, we just have no idea this is coming. Because you saw 2 Cyclones, you need to treat this with more respect, okay? So I think that's the first thing. Game 2, if we see Cyclones, we should look for a big Ling surround, if possible. And keep sacrificing Lings, if we can, to see what's coming out of their base / scout follow-up. So I think that's like if you sent just Lings to the top left and then into the base, just shift click them, like just one Zergling, deselect it or dump it, you know, do that once or twice during this last minute since you first saw those Cyclones. I think that would be really awesome. And you'd have a high chance of realizing, hey, this looks really aggressive. Likewise, we did see multiple depots on the natural reasonably early. Kind of tells us it's more of a 2-base than 3-base build. I know they were a little later than normal, but let's just say if the depot's building before 420 on the natural, that tells us they're 2-base, okay? Depot started on natural wall before 420 equals 2cc build, no fast third. And that just generally we play a bit safer in those scenarios. So that's our first sign of aggression. First sign of aggression. 2 Cyclones equals second sign. So in general, we should be safer here, right? I would say, yeah. What would I do? Probably heavy queen plus more Lings plus a bit more scouting would be my reaction. I think. Do you make
a pivot from Roach or Baneling based on Cyclones, or do you not really care? You just make one of them.
Probably just one. I personally do like Roaches against like Hellions because he has an expansion. Yeah. If they build a lot of Hellions, I really want Roaches. If they build a lot of Cyclones, I kind of almost just want Zerglings. So I think it's probably a good idea to build a Roach Warren. And because you can make Ravagers, and Ravagers can kind of go toe-to-toe with Cyclones as well because of their range and stuff and similar hit points. So I would say probably Roach Warren, safety Roach Warren as well. I think also cancel Spores. 2 Cyclones equals cancel Spores. They might go Liberator after 2 Cyclones, but you can react to that with a single Spore Crawler because it's more important to respect the Cyclone. And it's rare for someone to be making Cyclones and have a Starport. If you look at a lot of the 2-Rax Reaper openings the pros do, if they follow up with the factory onto the reactor, 2 Cyclones, their Starport's only coming down after those Cyclones come out. They might swap back onto that reactor with a Starport maybe a minute or 2 later after building some more Cyclone Hellion. So I think that's a nice little thing as well. Or just don't build the Spores in general against Cyclone openings. Yeah, and then generally you want to hide your Ling count and you want to let them come on creep and surround them. Or if they're just, derping about, you've got good vision of where they are, you can try to surround them. But because he's got the tower on this map, we'd basically wait for them to come here and then we just flood. I've seen pros not even split the Lings up. I always prefer to split the Lings, especially with Hellions and their splash damage. If you come from 2 sides, much better. So if you had half in the third, half in the natural, you can either wait for them to get a bit deeper and just try to slide them in. I'd probably pull the guys on the right around here though. Try to do the old shift click and then come in from 2 sides, And often the queens will start dying while I'm setting that up and I might lose a bunch of queens, but that kind of baits them into almost staying there. And then the Lings pull the trap and go for the mass Ling. And I think mass Ling is your simplest solution. So it's okay for you to be down on workers. If you shut down that army, you will explode into drones afterwards super hard.
Cool.
Mass Ling and initial surround. You can be down on drones. Just drone hard afterwards. Terran has to start a 3rd CC and build 2 SCVs at a time. So yeah, you could be, oh man, I'm sitting on 35 workers massing Lings or 40 workers or whatever the number is. He's up to 45. This kind of feels bad. You surround that, you get full map control, hold the drone key down, and you're up at 65, 70 workers. He's only on 50 still, 52, 54, whatever the number is. So I think you can actually recover really, really well there. But it's kind of just switching your mindset when you realize this is a 2-base Cyclone build. This is not 2 Cyclones and 4 Hellions at 6 minutes. This is like, the moment you see more than 2 Cyclones especially, it's just like balls to the wall, just survive.
Yeah, because if we live this, I can double expand, drone to 90, whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's weird because I always thought the mass Ling wouldn't work because I'm like, they've got 3 factories. They can make a lot of Hellions. But I see pros always hold with the Links around. I've done it a few times and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, technically, the Terran can build it, but the Terran doesn't know. Are you going Roaches? Are you going mass Ling? They never know. That's the reason it works, is because they don't know you're just going mass Zergling. At some point, I figure we're going to see an evolution. There's going to be 4 Cyclones into nothing but Hellions with these builds because every Zerg's countering it with Ling speed. And then we might need Banelings in there or something with the surround. I don't know, maybe flanking Banes or something, or to go Roaches and Ravagers and do that Ravager Queen kind of awkward response that I was talking about while you try to get to Roach speed. Once Roach speed's up, you're fine, but pre-Roach speed, your Roaches kind of suck. Yeah, I'm not sure what'll happen with that, but for now, I do think mass Ling will get the job done.
Cool. The Lings all the way. Also put the note of sending the 1 Ling around because I'm in the habit of sending run by around like that.
Yeah.
To send 1 Ling there and then toward the ramp. But yeah, not with the single Zergling for the scout. But after I send my Overlord in, if I send 1 Ling, then I would have known exactly what was going on.
Yeah, it's really powerful. There was a period when last time I was practicing ZvT a lot where I just got in the habit of like always just sending like a couple Lings off to that side, or frequently I'd just queue one up like that, like every 30 seconds. It was almost part of my macro cycle between like 4 minutes to 5.5 minutes or so, like that kind of crucial time when Terran can maybe be doing some weird stuff. And I remember I was just like, oh, this is what Serral feels like. Like there's just no surprises in this matchup. I was like, oh, I don't need Overlord speed or Overlord sacrifice. I just keep clicking Lings in and they always get in. It's like, oh, okay. One gets stopped, the next one gets in, it's Terran's door is always open. They're always rallying out, trying to be aggressive, trying to stop us from being greedy and covering the mapping creep. And that's why us going around the rear kind of works out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, man.
Nice.
So
now I know how to read the Cyclone build.
Were there any questions from your chat or my chat that maybe anything else to discuss here, or any other questions you had that we can finish up on?
Not gameplay related. Someone's asking how high you wear your socks. I wear ankle socks.
I had a science teacher in high school, Mr. Aspinall. He kind of looked like a goat, and he wore his socks so high. That man had not left the 1960s. He was like, you have to look smart. And his socks were up to his knees, basically. It was bizarre. And he had these knobbly knees, and his socks were like just below the knee and like the top folded or something. And he just looked and he was always wearing shorts. These very stiff pair of shorts, these very high socks.
Showing off them thighs.
It was a sexy look. It was pretty cool. He was a cool guy. Oscar Jesus, Mike, thanks for the sub, by the way, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the gifted sub as well. Yeah, how many queens do you build on average, Neuro, says Apple Juice. Apple Juice has been getting pretty good with his random.
Yeah, faced them the other day. I try to go for 7 to 10, depending on if they're going air or ground. If they're going ground, then having 7 is normally good. In that macro game I showed you, I made 14, kind of because I was off balance and felt pressured by stuff. So I was like, more queens can defend things, but then I looked and I had 14, so that's too many. Usually 7 is good.
If you're gonna do that, I mean, I know Cyril and Reyna do that a lot and stuff, and if you can initiate the engage into the tanks with those, tanking the tank shots. Thankfully, at our level, most people don't retarget the tanks, and it is pretty nice when they just like, it takes 5 tank shots, I think, to kill a queen. And when you're like, oh yes, that would have been 14 dead banelings or something. Instead, it's 1 dead queen. You're like, yeah. So that's actually huge in those 2 base push scenarios.
Well, hell yeah. Appreciate your help and expertise.
No worries.
It's always refreshing to learn. There were a lot of details that I didn't know, things that I haven't really tried. You keep pretty abreast of the pro gamer stuff with your casts and whatnot, so I didn't even know people are hotkeying 2 groups of queens now.
Yeah, that's how Reyna became world champion. So he was practicing. Have you heard about him practicing versus Archon mode?
No.
He gets like 5 GMs to play against him at once in ZvT, especially because that's the real mechanical matchup. And basically that way he's got like, there's one guy microing 4 Hellions here, one guy microing 4 Hellions there, a guy with a Banshee, a guy with a Liberator, and they're macroing perfectly as well. And he basically was like, this is the only way I can simulate Maru because the European Terrans aren't good enough. Like, I need to simulate Maru and beyond. So he grinded that a bunch, and he basically was like, well, you just can't physically defend all those locations. So he started splitting his queens up, and he sometimes now has 3 queen groups. There'll be an anti-air one in the back that's kind of like his injecting queens, an emergency group, basically. And he's got, the 2 front squads as well. And it's like, it's wild, but he's so good at doing it. And in that World Championship, that was the online one, the COVID one. He basically just covered the entire map in creep and got massive worker advantages like every game. And no one could touch him. Like Maru looked like a lamb about to be slaughtered. Luckily, Reyna sucks at late game really bad. Especially back then. So Maru would be like down 60 supply and he'd turtle and then he'd come back and win. And then Reyna had to like just basically play mutas to keep the movement up. And then Maru didn't get a chance to turtle and survive long enough. But he like looked just next level unstoppable. And now most of the top Zergs do it with their queens. Except Dark. He spreads the queens out like Reyna, but he doesn't control group them. So you'll still see like every queen run to the main to defend a Liberator sometimes, or like all the queens run to the front. Dark's like got that disorganized chaos energy where you're like, don't do this, kids, but it works for him because he's a god.
Yep.
Yeah.
A bad habit done well enough is a good habit? ?
I mean, yeah, dark, and it's like if you practice in suboptimal situations often enough, you become a god at them. It's like Dark is like the best comeback player in the world because he has bad openings and weird organization. You're like, okay, you created a good practice environment. If we could make him do a good opening, he'd be a 5-time world champion by now. Unfortunately, I don't think Dark's looked at an opening build order or looked at his own replay for the first few minutes in a long time, just from the way he plays. I think he just does it by feel and it works for him. I love that flow. I admire it.
Mhm.
How do we tell we're facing that attack? We don't know. We don't know for sure. So how would Neuro tell? Well, hopefully his Overlord sees it. But we talked about spotting depots on the natural guys. So the depot on the natural wall, if it starts after 420, it's a 3cc build. You don't have to be too worried. Even if they go Cyclone Hellion mech, you can kind of just do a normal build and realize as it happens because it's not going to hit that fast. But if the depot's later, you know it's a 2-base. Earlier, sorry, you know there's a 2-base build because they don't have that third command center propping up their supply. So they'll often start a depot somewhere between 3:30 to 4 minutes if they are on a 2-base build. So that's a sign of aggression. If you see cyclones coming out early, it's a sign of aggression as well. So if your Overlord doesn't see it, Neuro was kind of reinforcing that, running lings around the side, sending a single Zergling around the side and trying to click it in their main, doing that once or twice in the kind of 3.5, 4 to 6 minute period, 4 to 5 minute period, you'll almost always see what's coming out of their buildings and very often get in and just see everything that's happening. And that's the way to do it. But seeing cyclones, big sign of aggression. No fast third, big sign of aggression. Those are the main ones, I guess. And you try to scout for more with the Overlord and Lings, but you don't always see it.
Yeah, and 4-minute spores don't help you against a Cyclone All-in. It's an added note.
Yes. If it was 1-base Banshee, that would be really good spore timing. But just remember, everyone, it's not 75 minerals per spore. People are like, oh, it's only 225 minerals. You also kill 3 drones. That's 375 minerals. Plus, those drones are not mining minerals, which they should have been for that duration. And you're doing it 45 seconds, 30 seconds before you need to build the spores, even if you needed them. So it's like that opportunity cost in the time plus the cost against a non-starport build really adds up. Yeah.
Well, sweet. Appreciate your help, boss.
No worries, man. All right. Thanks for hanging. I'll see you later, dude.
Hell yeah. I'm going to hunt
Good luck
some
on your
Terran
stream,
blood.
bro. Heck yeah.
Thank you, sir.
GG's,
Take care,
man.
pigs, and the pig
Have a good
pack.
stream.
GG.
Bye.